Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough.
And that's it, right? That's the bullet point. That's what we need, right? It's complex issues. How do you win them? You boil them down. You boil them down to points that people can understand, that people get. Granted, it's tough when it's coming from somebody that's extremely wealthy and they're talking about concepts that may be a little bit beyond the reach of like an average person, like to tangibly understand. But that's what you need. Is him to say it just like that, very succinctly, in a simple term, just this is what needs to be done.
400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well, hold on a second, Kevin. Well, I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
It's short-lived. There will be.
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
What do you think?
Here's the thing, though. This is the perfect example of, I understand how it would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for. They voted.
Yes, they did. What are you talking about? What is she talking about? The American people voted for, as far as, I mean, it depends on what people she's talking about, right? Because a lot of people voted for Kamala Harris. So they definitely didn't vote for this, right? But the average working class, people, they voted to bring back their industry. Now, granted, we're not bringing back, coal-powered plants, into the U.S. to start making tube socks, right? But to Kevin's point, it's about the fact that there were industries that were here, right? And the information was stolen, and now it's being manufactured over there. You can't litigate the stuff because no court takes that up. So they just find something that American companies make, and American workers, regular workers, are working in those plants in that industry. China takes it over there, basically, slaps a sticker on it, and then has their, partially slave labor force start cranking it out and then selling it back to us. That's what he's talking about. Let's see what this person is talking about.
Because Trump said within 24 hours, costs will come down.
Trump supporters, by the way, you're talking about.
Well, Trump said that and there were people in the middle who said, okay, I'm going to vote for that. He also said he'd end the wars. That's not happening. We still have supply chain issues. So I just filled up my tank yesterday. Gas prices are not down. Rent, groceries, prices are not down. And when people...
By the way, the price of oil, I think, dropped $20 a barrel. So, I'm sure it takes more than a day to put those stickers up.
People are looking at what's happening in the markets, and they see the uncertainty, and they see their 401ks. I had to listen to my mom talk about her investments on Sunday, and she's nervous. I get it. On top of that, though, don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have a vote on a budget that is going to be also another series of cuts for the American people and a little bit of gamesmanship, as you were saying. So,
price of oil in the past 5 days is down 20%. So there's that.
So that we can sort of pay for the tax cuts for folks like Kevin. Then we've also got Doge, and we've got the impact that the Doge cuts and the cuts in jobs are actually having on economies around.
Yeah, jobs, government jobs. So she's okay with a government official sitting in a corner, staring at a light bulb, getting paid, and that being employment. That's great. What does that do for society? What is that person producing? What is their what is their net positive in society? Like what's their output?
Country. So it's when you layer all that together, and I think what you saw over last weekend is people don't want to wait anymore. People are angry. I mean, we saw incredible turnout over the weekend in rallies all across the country.
How many of those people were paid? I'm telling you, that stuff is going to come out. It's going to come out. You already have people online saying how much they got paid to go to these things, and even if they didn't get paid, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's about the propaganda machine, right? It's about whenever there's a complicated issue or like this, we knew that he was going to get hammered on this. We knew it. We knew it from the get-go, right? Market was going to tank. They were going to be relentless. He's staying the course, which is what he needs to do. Thank God for people like Kevin that can get out there and kind of push this issue and put it into the light of people where it's a little bit more tangible, a little bit more understandable, where they know what the hell's going on and have an idea of the end in sight.
Seeing it in the polls, people are frustrated.
I want to bring this into real terms as well. I mean, I'm an everyday person. I'm going to tell you that right now. And so when I think about how much things cost, I want to know things I'm going to afford or not afford. Listen to what somebody who's a furniture store owner in Kansas had to say about, say, the price of a sofa.
With the 54%, if we sell a sofa for $1,000, we will have to sell it for $1,299. And if it's 104%, then that sofa will be over $2,000. I don't think they can afford it.
Zolan, that's a real figure for a lot of people. A $2,000 couch as opposed to what they thought they were going to spend?
Yeah, that means higher prices for average Americans. And by the way, that's what Republicans in Congress right now are also worried about here. Hearing from their constituents at town halls and as the weeks go by, if consumer prices go up, that economic frustration then turning into political backlash against them and the administration.
But Kevin's point is that it's short-lived. What's your reaction?
Well, I mean, it's up to debate whether it's actually going to be short-lived at this point. Consumer prices going up. Again, economists say U.S. importers do pay the price of tariffs. That then goes down to the consumer. Also, one thing that is consistent right now is uncertainty. There's uncertainty right now, and this gamble that the administration is.
Well, you have to be uncertain before you're certain, right? And there's another thing where it's like, if you're going to change something that's been the law of the land for decades, right? The previous video I just did was on Nancy Pelosi, 1996. She was railing about these exact same issues in 96, right? Her ideas were already formulated, and she had a chart out there, and she was explaining how we were getting ripped to shreds by China. And this exact, like her speech could have been word for word a Trump speech. But that's the thing, right? Yeah, it's going to be uncertain, right? There has to be uncertainty when you're formulating a deal, right? When you go to buy something, whether it be a used car or anything off of Facebook Market or whatever, and the person says, I want $100, but negotiable. It's uncertain. There's an uncertainty in that aspect, right? You don't know. Maybe you luck out and get it for $50. Maybe you don't get it at all, and somebody outbids you and is $120. There's going to be a level of uncertainty when it comes to a negotiation process, right? You can't help that. That's just part of the deal, part of the package, part of trying to get a better outcome for America is going to be an uncertain time. That's part of it.
Doing that the average American will be able to weather through any type of economic frustration is bet on the idea that you'll then have investment in American manufacturing. Tough to pair investment with uncertainty.
So where does consumer confidence factor into all this? If people are nervous.
Moving manufacturing back to the U.S. takes a long time, but I'm still focused on two aspects. I mean, you have to differentiate the tariffs negotiated between countries, because the Eurozone just 48 hours ago said something remarkable. For the first time in decades, we're willing to go to 0 on 0. That means they open up all markets to all products, all services. That's a huge win. So forget about Israel or Thailand or Cambodia. We're talking about one of the largest economies on earth saying, okay, we get the joke. You want to sell cars? You want to sell a Corvette in Berlin? We're okay at 0. We've never had that before. So let's call that a huge win. We haven't done the deal yet, but let's get the German people over here to start negotiating that. Agriculture in Britain will go to 0 on 0. Canada, we'll love to do energy 0 on 0. So that's a huge win for him. Huge. He hasn't even taken advantage of it yet.
I thought, Kevin, part of it, I'm curious from your perspective and everyone, if one of the biggest assets of a negotiation is leverage, if he has said they're here to stay, does that remove some of the ability for him to negotiate in along with the countries?
When has he said that?
Well, I'm trying to differentiate between the trade non-parity. For example, you talk about Thailand. I have a company that makes greeting cards. Hewlett-Packard laser cutters making greeting cards in Thailand because labor's cheap, and we FedEx them every day here. They only have an economy of $35 billion. and the deficit is 200 billion. That country will never have trade parity with us. It's too small. But we can go to zero tariffs with them. And I'm telling you, there's a difference between getting everybody at 0 on 0, which is free trade basically, which for Trump would be a huge win. That call 48 hours ago when the Eurozone said, okay, uncle, we'll go to 0, take that win. It's a huge win. Now, getting trade deficits settled, that's going to take decades because we are the largest economy on earth by a factor of 2.5 times. We're always going to have deficits.
I also want to zoom out because
Right. So, what he's saying, we're at a trade deficit. Yes, because we buy more shit than everybody else, because we're richer than everybody else. So the whole trade deficit thing it's kind of like, it's not something for the average person to be concerned with, right? The fact that we buy more stuff than other countries. But as far as a leveraging tool, that's where it is worth its weight in gold, right? So if that country, again, take the Chinese example. I keep hammering this because it's so important. China sells us $500 billion worth of stuff, right? $500 billion, almost 500 billion. I think it was like 450 whatever billion dollars worth of stuff. We sell them 100 billion, right? So the trade deficit in that scenario is $300 billion. Chinese businesses benefit a net benefit of $300 billion plus off trade with the United States, right? So what does that mean to the average person? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. What does it mean when you're formulating a deal? Everything. It means everything. Why? Because you need me more than I need you. That's what it means. Because at the end, if we cut out all trade now, the U.S. loses $100 billion in sales. China loses nearly $500 billion, $50 billion in sales. It's a no-brainer, right? Play the game. Go ahead, play chicken with the bigger country. See what's going to happen. It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well, because I tell you right now, the business owners in China are knocking at Xi's door right now, and they're like, dude, figure this shit out. Figure it out, because we're not losing out on all this money. It's not going to happen. You're the supreme leader, whatever the hell you are. That's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, we're not losing out on $400 billion. It's not going to happen. I guarantee you that's what's happening. Trump knows that's what's happening. Kevin knows that's what's happening. The unfortunate thing is the way the media can spin this right now is just to ramp up fear, right? They can't tell you the bare bones of the scenario. They can't explain. They don't want to explain to you that simple fact. And it is a simple fact, right? That China cannot afford to lose the United States, right? All right, $2,000 for a sofa. Okay, that kind of sucks. How often do you buy a sofa? I'm sure somebody's trying to buy one right now. All right, you know what? Maybe now is not the time. Or instead of the $2,000 Chinese sofa, maybe you buy an $1,800 American-made sofa, or you go to another country that is importing sofas that is playing ball, and now they don't have a tariff, right? There are going to be ways around it. China knows this. China knows that somebody else around there can sell us a sofa, right? Or that we can have a sofa made here. So it's going to be an interesting time. We just got to, stick to the guns.
I do think it's worth noting that there are many in Congress, as well as the business community, that are questioning if the White House, and specifically the president, is even ready and in a position to negotiate.
The Home Depot co-founder made a comment on saying something like, I'm quoting here, I don't understand the goddamn formula. I believe he's been poorly advised by his advisors about this trade situation and this formula.
Who gives a shit about the formula? I keep hearing this, that the formula is erroneous, right? We're talking about 400% tariffs, right? 100% tariffs, 25% tariffs. Who cares about the formula? They're getting hung up on the fact that they said they were using. That's why I don't even say shit like that. That's the one thing that I have issues with the administration. Don't say you're using a formula. Forget about the formula. Just throw out numbers. Say this is what I think. This is what I feel. Who cares? It's not about creating a formula to you're throwing out a number. Right, just like you do when you're selling something like a used car or whatever, you're throwing out a number and then you negotiate from there. That's all it is. This stupid formula thing.
They're applying. You already see a tension between Musk and Navarro.
That's right. And that's not it. There's been mixed messages from different aides. Some that are saying, that they do want negotiations. The White House said today that 70 governments around that have come to the White House looking to start conversations. At the same time, really, the person who matters most is Trump and what he wants to do. And there's been plenty of comments of him digging his heels in as well. I wrote a piece weeks ago when the initial tariff threat against Mexico and Canada went out, saying that sometimes the tariffs don't seem to be a means to an end. They seem to be an end for the president as
How do you
well.
see it?
Well, but this is also the difference between running a business and running a country, right? Because the politics of this are, okay, we're going to start negotiating with 70. Start. How long is that going to take? Is that months? Is that the rest of the year? Then we're into the midterm season. And if you're a Republican member of Congress and you are hearing from your constituents who are saying, look, now we're in a recession. Now my prices are even higher than before. Why haven't you stood up to the president? Then you're going to put them in a real bind. And the one thing, the kind of pushback for Trump is he doesn't care because he's not running again. But if he wants to keep his majorities in the House and Senate, his team at least understands you better have a plan. There better be a plan to, are the tariffs a means to an end, or are they the end game? And what are we going?
Yeah. So ultimately, guys, I mean, you know, this was a great point made by Kevin. Previous video I just did, take a look at it. It was Nancy Pelosi basically giving a Trump speech from 1996. Excellent. I sorry I have to do so many of these videos. I have to hit it because it's important. It's important for people to understand this, even if, you know, a couple of people see it, whatever. I'm happy to help them work this through in their head, analyze it, get their arguments together where they can be, when they're confronted with people or when they're, you know, when somebody is talking to them about the situation, they have a little bit more knowledge base on what's going on. Guys, thanks a lot. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks a lot for coming out. We'll see you again in the next video.